well, yeah, Gary just starts talking, maybe we'll... Gary Gale, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Steve. Can anyone hear me? Can everyone hear me? No.
Because you're not on.
No, small
DeFeo!
Now, yes?
Yes.
Hey, yes. Right, okay. So, I can honestly say this is the first time I have ever given a talk with the remains of a G&T in my hand and to people in deck chairs. So, so this is a first. We'll skip over that because it's boring. I'm Gary. I'm from the internet. I'm a self-confessed map addict. Now, what I'm going to talk to you today contains a lot of links. And sometimes when I give talks, people like to scribble the links down because I think it might be interesting to look up. So, so don't. This is the only URL you need to worry about. It's nice, it's short, it's snappy, and if you've got a biro handy, it fits on the back of your hand.
Sorry.
MacBook fail. Let's try that. Yes. Right, quick. 30 seconds and counting. If you go there now, it's just going to take you to the root of my blog, but tomorrow by the time I upload stuff, that will have everything that's here. Now, this talk is a bit of a personal first. Not only is it the first time Steve Marshall has been unwise enough to ask me to talk, but quite often I get asked to give a talk and the organiser, for some unknown reason, wants the talk title and wants the abstract 3 months in advance. And as a result, the talk I give bears absolutely no resemblance. But this time it does. I actually have the email to prove it. Now, enough about me. Let's set a bit of context. Some people may be aware that there is this thing out on the interwebs called Twitter. And that out on Twitter, there are a certain group of people who like to take photographs of food. And they use a hashtag to describe it, and the hashtag is food porn. And I'm afraid to say that I sometimes indulge in this, especially when I'm on holiday. But I also take photos of maps. And I use the hashtag map porn. And this talk is going to be pure, 100% unadulterated map porn. And I make absolutely no apologies for this. Now, before I talk about the main topic, I want to set a little bit of historical context for you all. This is a map. No, really, it is. This is one of the earliest recognisable maps that mankind has so far dug up. It's a Babylon in 600 BC or thereabouts. That's Babylon in the centre. You can probably see some triangles going off. Those are the 7 islands that the Babylonians knew about. The circular bit is what they called the River of Bitter Water, which is what we probably know as the sea. And even though this is God knows how many years old, it's kind of just about recognisable as a map. And given its age, and given the fact that it's a clay tablet, I don't think it's done a bad job, nor has it faded over time, apart from the broken off bit where some of the 7 islands have vanished. Now, it's art. It tries to be historically authoritative and accurate. And all of the stuff off of the edge kind of speaks about what a lot of people make maps for, which is talking about hopes, aspirations, and our particular, very subjective, very personal view of the world. Now, fast forward several centuries, the golden age of map exploration, when companies like the Dutch East India Company were sending people on ships to map the rest of the world. Now, those of you who remember Blackadder Series 2 will remember Edmund Blackadder going and doing the Francis Drake impression to go and find the New World. And he's given a map of the world by Lord Melchett, played by Stephen Fry, and what he's given is a blank sheet of paper. This is the result of people filling in that blank sheet of paper. Now, it's more recognisable as the world we know, but I think almost everybody here can agree that this is also art. I mean, the amount of work and time and effort that's gone into making that beggars belief. And if you had a map like that, back in 1593, this meant that you were an immensely powerful person. Maps were that era's analogue of political lobbying. You spent a shitload of money and you gave a map to somebody that you wanted to curry favour with. Be it a kingdom, be it a king, a lord, and if they were nice, they would let you do what you wanted to do because you've obviously spent a lot of money. Yeah, maps were also state secrets. They said, this is mine, you can't come here. They set levels of taxation. They said, you fit within this particular area, therefore you need to pay a certain amount of your earnings, your tithings, to the lord of the manor. And maps were also business plans. The entrepreneurs of the day were people like Magellan and Galileo, who went out and found new territories and mapped them so that their sovereign rulers, their sponsors, could say, this is now mine as well. But maps don't just have to be geographically accurate, they can also tell a story. A chap called Charles Minard in the mid-1800s produced this map which showed Napoleon's march to Moscow. Now, I don't know if any of you ever saw Eddie Izzard's Dress to Kill video, where he does a very, very good impression of Napoleon's march to Moscow and the retreat. He's standing there with a flag and he runs across the stage and goes, we're going to Moscow, we're going to Moscow. Oh no, it's too cold, it's too cold, it's too cold. And this is exactly what's going on here. The pinkish line shows a very, very large army setting out towards Moscow, and they lose a reasonable amount of their troops along the way. And they get there, and they discover it is very, very cold, and they are very, very ill-equipped. And the black line shows the path of their retreat. And it's quite a telling story to compare the number of people who set out to the number of people who finally made it back home. It's still a map. It's just a map that shows data, maybe an early analogue of our web mashups that we see today. And then there's another type of not necessarily geographically accurate map. We're probably all familiar with the mass transit and metro route maps, most of which are derived from the tube map up in the top corner there. Incidentally, the first map I ever found on the back of my father's London A to Z street atlas, which, if you're of my generation, we all carried them around in our back pockets or in our knapsacks, and I can guarantee that nobody here in this room has a copy of the A to Z, and if you do, I would be very, very surprised. And then there's another map that people of my generation will probably be familiar with, the Ordnance Survey Pink Land Ranger series, which I got taught how to read when I was a Cub Scout. And actually, it's still there online, although I don't think many people use streetmap.co.uk these days. If you, at certain zoom levels, if you go down far enough, there's the original Ordnance Survey map. And yeah, it's nice, it's familiar, it's comforting, we probably know what most of the symbols mean. Yeah, is it art? I probably don't think so. And no roundup of sort of maps will be complete without the online maps that we see and use on our mobiles, on our tablets, on our laptops. And so, you know, I work for Nokia, we do a map, so do Google, so do Bing, and so do OpenStreetMap. All variations on a theme, a map of where you want to see, sometimes with information put on top of it. But along the way, from those sumptuous maps of exploration through to a map on your mobile phone, I think there's something gone missing, and that's the art. You don't tend to stare and look at today's maps as much as you would maps in a museum, for example. Yeah, the art's gone, I think. We'll has it. We saw a version of this map on one of the closing slides of the last talk. This is the watercolour style of Teddington in southwest London, where I live, produced by Stamen Design in San Francisco. It's recognisable as a map. You know, there's the Thames, there's Teddington Lock, the scene of the infamous Monty Python fish-slapping dance. There's Bushy Park, where Mo Farah did all of his training for the 2012 Olympics. I think it's gorgeous. It's my second favourite map. If I could get away with it at home, I would blow this up as large as I possibly could and I would put it on my wall. But I can't, so I don't. It's my second favourite map. So, how did we get here? How did we get from cuneiform impressions on a mud tablet baked in the sun to a watercolour stylised map, recognisable as a map but with no information on it whatsoever? None of the information that we expect to see on a map these days. Well, the theme of this evening apparently is world of data, and to me, the answer is data. Maps mean data. More data means more maps. The volume of data that is being produced on today's interwebs is absolutely phenomenal. The volume of that data which contains some form of spatial information, be it a set of coordinates, a geotag, a name, is absolutely phenomenal. And people can start to make their own maps in ways that were never possible before. This used to be the preserve of the professional geographer who had letters after their name, of the professional cartographer. And now you can do it online on the web. Now, in addition to being able to allow us to make maps that we never made before, it also allows us to make maps of what might have been. This is a map of what Berlin would have looked like if the history events of 1945 hadn't quite gone the way that they would have. I go to Berlin quite a lot because that's where Nokia's mapping information centre is held. And what I find particularly interesting is, just here is Brandenburg Gate, the scenes of the seminal coming down the Berlin Wall. And where the Unter den Linden, the nice grand avenue to the centre of Berlin, was to be is, first of all, St. Paul's Cathedral on steroids, a dome so big it was going to have its own climate system within it, and a massive lake all the way up to Nordbahnhof, one of the main railway stations. None of this got built, because history says otherwise. That taking the plans that are available from the Public Records Office, somebody has taken the time to put this on top of a map and shown us one possible vision of our history. Now there's a flip side to all of this. Just because we can make maps doesn't always mean that we should make maps. This gem came from Canada's Ottawa Sun, and it looks like a map of the world. The only problem is that Saudi Arabia has now relocated to the African coast. Iran is on the Arabian Peninsula where Saudi Arabia should be. Somebody doesn't realise that Sudan is actually now two completely separate companies, and they also seem to have got Malaysia and Indonesia confused, which I'm sure really annoyed the respective embassies of those governments. But the topic of bad maps is another thing entirely. One of the things I like about the maps that we can produce these days is it tells us stuff which we don't normally know. So if you go to America, neighbourhoods are really important, especially for local search, and neighbourhoods are rigidly demarcated, normally by the city or by the local real estate organisation. It's the same in Australia. London's a bit more confusing. London doesn't have official neighbourhoods. And I can remember when I used to work at Yahoo, we did a spot check. We walked out onto Shaftesbury Avenue and collared 15 innocent pedestrians and said, quick, tell us, what neighbourhood are you in? And we got told, oh, you're in Covent Garden. No, you're not, you're in Chinatown. Oh, no, you're not, you're in Soho. You're in Seven Dials. You're in the West End. You're in Theatreland. Some people even thought that we were in Edgware, which was a little bit scary. Now, for local services, knowing neighbourhoods is really important. And this map matches up Flickr's alpha data set, which is taken from all of the tags on Flickr photos. And it shows what they think the neighbourhood where they took a photo is. Now, I make no pretenses that this is geographically accurate, but sometimes even a slightly inaccurate map is better than no map at all. And then there's this map, which is definitely one to be filed under the maps because you can category, and it doesn't look that interesting. Yeah, okay, it's the USA, there's the States, and somebody's drawn some nice lines from the notional centre point of Theatreland. Some people even thought that we were in Edgware, which was a little bit scary. Now, knowing neighbourhoods is really important. And this map matches up Flickr's alpha data set, which is taken from all of the tags on Flickr photos, and it shows what they think the neighbourhood where they took the photo is. Now, I make no pretenses that this is geographically accurate, but sometimes even a slightly inaccurate map is better than no map at all. And then there's this map, which is definitely one to be filed under the maps because you can category, and it doesn't look that interesting. Yeah, okay, it's the USA, there's the States, and somebody's drawn some nice lines from the notional centre point of the map. Until he starts to play with it in a web browser, and all of a sudden you discover just what you could do if you really decided that you didn't want California to be where it is, or maybe you wanted to move Florida around, or play with the position of Texas. You can play with this for hours, and I did when I was supposed to be writing this talk. Yes, it's maths because you can, but it makes me smile. And because there's so many data sets out there which has location components, you can do this. I mean, this is a classic Web 2.0 maps mashup. This is, if you want to know where people have found fossils, this is the map for you. And the fact that somebody has been able to do this based on freely available data sets and freely available maps, I think it's revolutionary. It's a democratizing experience. Maps are no longer the preserve of the professional mappers. And sometimes people go several steps beyond a map, like this. This is called plume graph. And it's only just recognizable as a map. That's Afghanistan down there, almost relegated to a grayed out wallpaper. And although the information that it's showing is reflecting sort of humanity's less than glamorous side, there's still something fascinatingly beautiful about the fact that somebody has taken the time to collate all of this information, put it on the map, done some very fancy JavaScript trickery, and allows you to play with it. Now, we tend to think of maps and data sets as a relatively relevant, hey, I've got another one of these, a relatively modern preserve, but people have been producing data sets for donkey's years. We just haven't had the ability to easily and cost-effectively produce maps. So this is the NOAA's tornado tracks over the last 56 years in the United States, which is quite pretty, and I think there's almost an art to it, but it does serve a valuable purpose of showing you where, if you have an aversion to tornadoes, you probably shouldn't go to live. And then there's hurricanes over the last 160 years ago. And this is kind of interesting because the normal map that we see is Mercator's projection with the map laid out on a nice flat piece of paper so it's easy to print. But that's Antarctica, there's South America, there's Australia. So we're looking at the globe from underneath, and you can see the almost whirlpool effect of these whopping great big storms going around our planet. Now, all of these photos, by the way, are up on the web at a zoom level way beyond what I can show here on a projector. And if you have a few minutes to spare, I strongly suggest you go and have a look because the detail underneath them is just phenomenal. Now, keeping with the theory of wind, this shows the real-time patterns of wind. Well, not real-time because it was on August 31st when I took the screenshot. And at first sight, it's quite a nice visualization of some data. And there's everything that we would recognize on this sort of thing. You know, you've got a map, you've got the data put on top of the map, you've got a nice key, which tells you what the wind speeds are. Until you see all the real-time aspect. And then all of a sudden, the map becomes alive. It lives, it breathes, and if you go there right now, you will get the wind conditions, give or take 30 seconds. It's almost hypnotic to watch. So, now to coin another Monty Python phrase for something completely different. I mentioned Mercator's projection, and that's the map which we tend to be familiar with when we see the Earth. Yeah. It's been around for a few years. I think it was 1569 when Mercator first decided he was going to unroll the globe and produce a map. And these are typically the first maps that we come across. Maps on the wall of school, maps in atlases. Yet it doesn't bear that much resemblance to some of the stunning images we've seen from NASA of the globe from space. For a start, Greenland has mutated into this sort of 50% bigger blob up at the top, and Antarctica, rather than being this rather interesting shaped continent, is reduced to just this smear of white along the bottom of the map. And it's almost to say, well, we don't really care because nobody lives there anyway. So a guy called Buckminster Fuller produced what he called the Dymaxion map, which kind of makes a little bit more sense if you rotate it through 90 degrees. And his big thing was that, slightly new age, we live on this thing he called Spaceship Earth. And he formulated this when he saw some of the first photos from the moon landings of the Earth hanging up in the sky. There's no projection distortion on this map. It shows our planet almost as a single island in a massive ocean. And as he put it, the maps we use still cause humanity to appear inherently disassociated, remote, self-interestedly preoccupied with the political concept of the day, but it's got to be you or me, and there's not enough room for both. Now, I don't expect that you will see this map appearing in an infographic on the BBC or in a school atlas at any point in time, but it does illustrate that just as there's more than one way to skin a cat, there's more than one way to make a map. Okay, I'm almost there. There's one more map, which I want to show you. What happens if you found a map that if you put your boarding pass on, it would show you how to get to the gate? What happens if you had a map that you put your mobile phone on and it showed you where you could charge it? Or you put a credit card on and it would tell you where a hole in the wall was, or where you could get some money exchange for wherever it is you're flying to. Now this is MIT's TAPUMA, the Tangible Public Map. Now admittedly this is a very, very limited use. This is a map of an airport terminal. Given that it's MIT, it's probably Logan in Boston. But it does illustrate that maps don't just have to be things that we swipe with our fingers on touchscreens, or play with mouse pointers on a desktop or a laptop. And it's quite intelligent. It recognises that if you put a tube of underarm deodorant onto a map, you probably can't do much with that. I thought that was rather interesting. Okay, now this is the part of the talk where it's traditional for me to wrap up, do a little bit of prognostication, say where maps are going to go in the next year. Well, the fact is that at least 70% of those maps which I've shown you, apart from the historical ones, didn't exist a year ago. There's data sets coming out that we have no idea about. There's people producing JavaScript frameworks to do funky visualization on the likes of some of the stuff that map is able to do. And where's the map going to go in 12 months' time? I have not a clue. I can barely keep up with it, and I immerse myself in this with as much of my waking time as my family, my wife and my children will let me. I think in a year's time you're going to get something even more interesting coming out, even more eye-catching. Maps because you can. And with all of this technology, they'll be easier and easier to make. So I'll leave you with my favourite map. I suggest if you try going to this site, you have both a modern standards compliance browser, a reasonably large bandwidth pipe to the interwebs, and about 2 minutes to spare, because all of the rendering of this is about 6 or 7 different data sets rendered by your browser. It takes a long, long time to download. But it's London. It's recognisably London. You can see the North and South Circular, you can see the motorways coming out. And I think the name just says it all. Yes, it's undoubtedly a map. It's undoubtedly pretty. It's my current favourite map, and it's proof of what you can do with a little bit of creativity, a little bit of data, and a little bit of technical know-how. Will it be my favourite map in a year's time? Who knows? Only the data and the maps that are being made with that data will tell. So, I hope you enjoyed seeing these maps and this map lawn as much as I've enjoyed researching it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for laughing, which makes me think that at least some of it was vaguely amusing, and more importantly, thank you for not throwing anything.
Ladies and gentlemen, Gary Gale and his amazing map board. Well, so that's all of the talks we've got for you tonight. I've really enjoyed them when I've not been running around frantically trying to find speakers who were busy with other engagements and things, Gary.
Don't know what you're talking about.
And I hope you have too. We've got the space for about another hour and a half, hour and 40. The barbecue's back on. The booze should be flowing again. You can still carry out on the terrace, or you can stick around in here. And I'm sure all the speakers and I would love to talk to you if you've got any questions or want to talk to us about anything, or just hang around and have some fun. All right, thanks for coming, guys.